Act 5, Scene 1, the plains of Philippi a few weeks later. So, the last time we saw the Brutus and company, it was roughly 2 years, give or take, a few months or a few weeks, since the killing of Caesar. They decided at the very end, especially after the ghost came, to say we're going to march towards Philippi so that we will meet Antony's troops in the middle and have it out and have our war. So now we see, we're at the Battle of Philippi. We're at the plains. So this is where it's going to play out. It's very important that you keep an eye on these individuals, these characters, because before a war starts, if you've ever seen a big period piece war like in Braveheart, some other big war, before they start in Troy, before the battle, they come marching up to each other, and then they might send their generals out to talk. Okay, and there could be a couple things. Maybe this is your last chance for peace. Maybe it's to taunt each other. If in Troy, to send out their one champion to fight in representation of the rest of the army, so whoever wins, the war could be done at that moment. If you've seen The Lord of the Rings, Return of the King, at the very end, as they're standing outside the Black Gate, okay, and then Sauron's messenger, the guy with no eyes and the big pointy teeth, he comes out to talk to Aragorn, and they're figuring out what's going to happen, and they decide that the war is going to happen. And so we see it play out here, where the generals of both armies. So on one side, we have Antony and Octavius, and on the other side, we have Brutus and Cassius, the conspirators. Look at the jabs that they take, the figurative jabs, not actual fighting, that they take with one another here at this particular scene. And then ultimately, the war is getting ready to commence on the next scene. So, Scene 1, the plains of Philippi. So we have the two groups back and forth, and those two generals from each side. Brutus, words before blows. Is it so, countrymen? So let's talk it over before we have our battle. Antony's response: in your bad strokes, Brutus, you give. Brutus says, words before blows. Is it so, countrymen? Not that we love words better as you do. Oh, good words are better than bad strokes, Octavius. So he's almost talking down to him again, which they will repeatedly hear. Antony's response and counter: in your bad strokes, Brutus, you give good words. Witness the hole you made in Caesar's heart, crying, long live, hail Caesar. Oh, Antony, the posture of your blows are yet unknown. But for your words, they rob the high plebeians and leave them honeyless. Oh, not stingless too. So they're just back and forth, a bunch of rhetoric and discourse, words, phrases, just to taunt one another. Finally, Antony has enough and goes, villains! You did not so when your vile daggers hacked one another in the sides of Caesar. You showed your teeth like apes, you grinned like apes, and fawned like hounds, and bowed like bondmen, kissing Caesar's feet, whilst damned Casca, like a cur behind, struck Caesar in the neck. Oh, you flatterers! Cassius' response: flatterers? Now, Brutus, thank yourself this tongue had not offended so today, if Cassius might have ruled. So this is pretty much a I told you so. Flatterers, you insult Brutus, I told you so. You have nobody to thank for yourself. Because if you had done what I said, he would not be doing this right now. So it's really a snap, 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 I told you so type attitude. There needs to be no response. You know, Cassius has wanted to say this for 2 years. We should kill him. No, we're not going to kill him. Okay, well, you shouldn't let him speak at the funeral. Oh, we're going to let him speak at the funeral. If they had just killed him, or even if he had let him live but not let him speak, where would they be now? Maybe he would be at home with Portia. Maybe they would be in charge. Things could be a lot different. So that's something to keep in mind there. Good. Octavius, after being called villains and Cassius and all that stuff, Octavius wasn't called a villain, and his buddy Antony did. But anyways, he pulls out a sword and says, I draw a sword against conspirators. When think you that the sword goes up again? So I pull out this sword from my scabbard. When do you think it's going to go away? That I put it away? Never. Till Caesar's 33 wounds be well avenged. Or till another Caesar have added slaughter to the swords of traitors. So until Caesar has been avenged, or another Caesar, me, is killed by traitors' swords. Look at Brutus' response. It's brilliant. He goes, Caesar, thou canst not die by traitors' hands unless thou bringest them with thee. So Octavius is saying that I will avenge and put this sword away victoriously, or I will be killed by traitors' swords again, like another Caesar. Oh, Octavius, you will not be killed by traitors unless you brought them with you. Because Brutus is saying we're not traitors. Because remember, Brutus, we've done all we've done for the benefit of Rome. He fully believes that. And you will see by the end of this play what others think of him, even after this 2 years of dissent and impending civil war. Because this is civil war. One side is going to think the other side to be traitors. And conversely, so both sides think that they're in the right, so the opposites are traitors. And so it's a wonderful line there. Wonderful line. If you look at the next page, after they've exited, Brutus and Cassius are left on stage, along with Messala. And Messala is a lieutenant of Brutus's army. Cassius talks to Messala about these images and omens that they've had, and how they should be interpreted. Now, there isn't so much a supernatural element here like we've seen throughout, but it's more about superstition and implying what certain things mean and how they relate to the present day situation. So follow along with me on page, line 79. He says that coming from Sardis on our former ensign, so our foremost banner, where you have your flags and all of that stuff, 2 mighty eagles fell, and there they perched, gorging and feeding from our soldiers' hands. Who to Philippi here consorted us? So a company. So we had like 2 little pets, 2 eagles. Now eagles aren't like doves or hummingbirds. These are mighty eagles. Why do you think that it's the symbol of America, the bald eagle? Mighty, powerful bird, just power. And 2 of them followed with us and sat on our banner as we traveled all the way here to Philippi. Now this morning, are they fled away and gone? So the morning of the battle, they've left. And in their steads do ravens, crows, and kites fly over our heads and downward look on us, as we were sickly prey. Their shadows seem a canopy most fatal, under which our army lies, ready to give up the ghost. So in the place of these wonderful birds are birds associated with death. And anytime you see, driving down the road, you see some birds circling, that means something's dead or dying below. You see it in movies and TVs and cartoons, buzzards sitting next to somebody in the desert, just waiting for them to die, and they're passed out. And when you die, I'm going to eat you. I'm going to eat you. And it's very similar here. So where these big, mighty eagles have left, the day that they needed them, we have these birds of death circling over us, and every time they cross the sun and their shadows circle around us and cover us, and it's almost like a blanket waiting for us of death, a blanket of death, and that's waiting for us to give up the ghost is the phrase, to die, so they can feed on us. So not a very good omen in interpretation. The next page here, Cassius and Brutus discuss, okay, let's just say, just for argument's sake, that the worst of the worst happens. Line 96, let's reason with the worst that may befall, says Cassius. If we do lose this battle, then is this the very last time we shall speak together? What are you then determined to do, Brutus? What are you going to do if we lose? And this is the last time we ever see each other. Even by the rule of that philosophy, by which I did blame Cato for the death which he did give himself, I know not how, but I do find it cowardly and vile to kill yourself, to have suicide. His father-in-law, which is Portia's father, Cato, killed himself instead of being captured, and he feels that that's extremely extremely cowardly. So Cassius's response is, oh, so would you are contented to be led in triumph through the streets of Rome? So you're going to be led a captive for people to mock and scorn and throw stuff at in defeat? Look at Brutus's response. No, Cassius, no. Think not, thou noble Roman, that ever Brutus will go bound to Rome. He bears too great a mind. He has too much pride to do that. He is too noble to be led in such chains and squalor, and it's not going to happen. But this day, same day must end that work, the Ides of March begun. And whether we shall meet again, I know not. Therefore our everlasting farewell take, forever and forever. Farewell, Cassius. If we do meet again, why, we shall smile. If we ever meet again, that means we're victorious and we're going to smile. And if not, why, then this parting was well made. So it was a good thing that we said goodbye. Whatever happens today, the ball that started rolling on the Ides of March, Caesar's death, it will end today, either victoriously or in defeat, by living and celebrating and smiling at one another, or in death. Whether that means captured, and it doesn't sound like either of these guys wants to be captured, so they will kill themselves before they become captured. And we will see whether that actually happens or not. Scene 2, the field of battle, shortly afterwards. This is immediately after, well, not immediately, but shortly after we see that the war has begun. Brutus is going to be giving a messenger, a sergeant, a general, a lieutenant of his, an order, and see if you can see where he wants his army to go. And based on what they say, Brutus says, how is the battle going up till now? So Act 2, Scene 2.
Scene 2. The field of battle. Shortly afterward. Alarm. Enter Brutus and Messala.
Ride, ride, Messala, ride, and give these bills unto the legions on the other side.
Loud alarm.
Let them set on at once, for I perceive but cold demeanor in Octavio's wing, and sudden push gives them the overthrow. Ride, ride, Messala, let them all come down.
They exit.
Act 2, Scene 2. Brutus tells Messala, let them, Messala, come here. Let them set on at once, for I perceive but a cold demeanor in Octavio's wing, and a sudden push gives them the overthrow. So the cold demeanor, I see a lack of spirit in how they fight. So double your efforts. Fight over there and come in the flank them and wing them and hit them hard, and we will bust through their line. And we will be victorious over here. So we've seen that Brutus and Octavius have partnered up against one another as well. So we can infer from this, or what's implied rather, that Cassius and Antony are fighting at some other point on the battlefield. And so Brutus is saying, Messala, I see weakness over there. So imagine a big chessboard. He is playing Octavius, moving people around. Over here, Antony and Cassius are doing their dance, and so it's back and forth. So it's a big strategy. And the main decision makers aren't down there on the battlefield. They're back in the back where they can watch. So you see this in like the movie The Patriot, even here in America with the Revolutionary War. And you have these people even now, present day, with technology it's much easier, but the main decision makers aren't there. They're in the back or ways away now and making these calls. So Act 2, Scene 2. Act 3, Scene 3, another part of the battlefield several hours later. Now think back to what we know from just the previous scene. Brutus sees an advantage over Octavius, and so he's grabbing that advantage. And here we see how it's going for Cassius several hours later. He's fighting Antony. What I want you to focus on is his state of mind, Cassius's state of mind. He's always been so hot and cold and so emotional and quick to make actions and judgments. We saw in Act 3, right before the assassination of Julius Caesar, he's walking up the steps and some non-conspirator comes up and goes, good luck with your enterprise and your endeavor today. Oh, what a good luck. And he was nervous that this guy was telling Caesar, and he didn't know that this guy would know. That if this guy knows, who else knows? And so he got really worked up and really nervous. And he pulled out a dagger and said, if we can't kill Caesar, then I'm going to kill myself. because this, he's just quick to make an action and judgment. Look at his reaction when he finds out about how Brutus is doing, and then ultimately how he's doing with Mark Antony. And then kind of think, are we surprised by how it plays out? This is a tragedy, obviously, so it's not going to be happy, but look at those signs and how they are interpreted by Cassius in his discussions with Titinius, who is Titinius is to him what Messala is to Brutus, so remember that. And so Titinius is going to be his messenger, and then his slave Pindarus plays a big role in this particular scene. Act 5, Scene 3. So Scene 3, another part of the battlefield several hours later. We have Brutus, at the very end coming across, the body of Cassius. Cassius really struggles. He's threatened his own suicide time and time again, but he actually goes through with it here with, help from somebody. But it's important to notice, how he's up and down and how battle can change from time to time and really at a moment's notice. Oh, look, Titinius, look, the villains fly. Myself have to mine own turned enemy. So he's saying that my men, my own people are fleeing. So it's not going well for Cassius. So while Brutus is beating up on Octavius, Antony is doing so well against Cassius that Cassius's troops are starting to flee and run away. And so that's why he says, myself have to mine own turned enemy. This ensign here of mine was turning back, and I slew the coward. So this standard bearer, the person that carries the flag, he was leaving, so I killed him because he was going to cause such I don't have traitors. I don't have people on my crew, so I killed him. Let's see, he says, oh, Cassius, Brutus gave the word too early, who, having some advantage on Octavius, took it too eagerly. His soldiers fell to spoil, to looting, whilst we by Antony are all close. So he says, in looking over there, my partner, they ended and were victorious, and instead of coming to help, they kind of go, okay, well, we did our part, let's just relax, things are going fine. And they started to loot and get money and get all of this stuff and look over the corpses instead of coming. And that's Titinius' opinion. So then this individual named Pindarus shows up. He goes, my lord, fly for the Lord. Mark Antony is in your tent. So leave, get out of here. Mark Antony is in your camp. So it's overrun. So it's pretty much done for us. So you need to go. You need to take off. Go away. Cassius says, look, Titinians, are those our tents that I perceive are on fire? They are, my lord. Titinius, if thou lovest me, mount thy horse and hide thy spurs. So dig in and fly quickly. And whether yon troops, find out if those are our friends or foes, because that could be the final determination as to what I'm going to do in a little bit. So Titinius takes off, and he goes. He's off stage. Cassius, Pindarus, get up higher. Watch, regard Titinius, and tell me what thou notest about the field. So you relay to me what you see. Be my eyes up there. This day I breathed first. Time is come around. And where I did begin, there shall I end. My life is run his compass. So it's come full circle. So I sense that this is going to be the end, is what he's sensing. So Pindarus is climbing and goes, my lord, what news? Titinius is enclosed round about with horsemen that make to him on the spur. So he's riding and he's being circled by other horsemen. Okay, he goes, oh, now they are almost on him. Oh, now Titinius, now show some light. They get some everybody gets off their horses. Oh, he gets off his horses too. Oh, he's tame. He's taken prisoner. And they're shouting for joy. Oh, great. Oh, great. So, things aren't looking too good. Cassius, come down, behold no more. Oh, coward that I am, to live so long, to see my best friend tame before my face. So how horrible to see Titinius taken. Come here, Pindarus. In Parthia, when in victory I took you, you were my slave. And you swore thee, saving of thy life, that whatsoever I did bid thee do, thou shouldst attempt it. Come, now keep thine oath. Now, be a free man. But you must do one more thing for me. And you swore you would do it. Take this sword, and when I'm not looking, stab me with it. And kill me. So I'm not going to take my sword and do it. You take my sword, and when I cover my face, I want you to kill me. And that's what he says. And use this sword that ran through Caesar's bowels. Search this bosom. Stand not to answer. Don't think. Here, take thou the hilt. So take the sword. And when my face is covered as it is now, guide thou the sword. Pindarus, he does it. He stabs him. Caesar, thou art revenged, even with the sword that killed thee. And so Cassius dies. Pindarus is a free man. Pindarus is a free man. So he goes, so I am free, yet would not so have been. Durst I have done my will. O Cassius, far from this country Pindarus shall run, where never Roman shall take note of him. So Pindarus flees and takes off. He's a free man now. The last ending of this particular scene, we see Titinius and Messala walk back in. Titinius is one who was on the horse, who we saw overtaken. But wait a minute. Who is Messala? Messala was a messenger of Brutus from the previous scene. And so yes, Titinius was overtaken, and they all got off their horse, and there was great shouting. But it was Brutus's, an ally, his crew that had surrounded Titinius, so they were all rejoicing. So Cassius misinterpreted, or Pindarus misinterpreted what happened, and they were actually fine. But yet he was rash to judgment and killed himself. And so Octavius is overthrown by noble Brutus' power, and Cassius's legions are by empty. So Cassius was actually winning. These tidings will well comfort Cassius. Oh, where did you leave him? Oh, he was all disconsolate. He was all dejected and mournful and sad. So he's with Pindarus, his slave, up upon this hill. Is that not he that lies upon the ground? He lies not like the living. Oh, my heart, is not that he? No, this was he, Messala. But Cassius is no more. So he is dead. And he shouldn't have been, because we had this glorious news. And so we see that, the misinterpretation of the news, he ends up killing himself. Good. Let's see. He says, line 65, Titinius goes, mistrust of my success has done this deed. So he was fearful of my mission's outcome. He was fearful of what I was going to find. And Messala, Brutus' man, says, mistrust of good success has done this deed. So fear of how the battle would turn out. So he was fearful of ultimately what was going to transpire. Messala has his little soliloquy before he kills himself. He says, why didst thou send me forth, brave Cassius? Did I not meet thy friends, and did not they put on my brows this wreath of victory, and bid me give it to thee? Didst thou not hear their shouts? Alas, thou hast misconstrued everything. You misinterpreted everything. Oh, woe is me, and how sad. Come, Cassius, by your leave, gods, this is a Roman part. Come, Cassius' sword, and find Titinius' heart. So he picks up the sword and stabs himself and dies. There is a line in Macbeth when Macbeth is contemplating suicide, and he says that I am not going to play the Roman fool and fall upon my sword. Look at all the suicide that's happening here. The pointless suicide. These two people should not have been dead. Talking about the suicide of Cato and Brutus and what he thinks is cowardly, but yet he will do it. And we'll get to see what happens with Brutus. But these are all Roman people. And so we see in that story with Macbeth, which is a Scottish story, and he calls that foolish. I won't play the Roman fool and fall upon my sword, where we see all of these examples of people falling upon their sword. And so everybody's dead on stage. And then Brutus comes on with Messala. And Brutus is dejected because his friend died. He says, "Oh, Julius Caesar, thou art mighty, yet thy spirit walks abroad and turns our swords in our own." So even though we're victorious in battle, you're still, or maybe it's down there in hell, you're still victorious. You're making us kill ourselves. Oh, damn it, Caesar's ghost. And so he's very frustrated and angry and dejected that, my people, Cassius, killed himself while we are doing very well and near victorious in the battle. Are yet 2 Romans living such as these? The last of all the Romans, fare thee well. It is impossible that ever Rome should breed thy fellow, thy equal. Friends, I owe more tears to this dead man than you shall see me pay. I shall find time, Cassius, I shall find time to mourn you and cry for you. But I can't do that because there's still fighting to be done. And those last couple lines of this scene, he takes off and he goes, "Set our battles on, 'tis 3 o'clock, and Romans yet ere night. We shall try fortune in a second fight." So they're using these deaths as additional motivation. Let's go and stamp out all that is remaining of our enemies. Let's get another rallying cry and go and fight. Because it's not done yet. Let's go and put the finishing touches on our victory. And hopefully, retake Rome and retake the rulers. Scene 4. Another part of the battlefield shortly after. We're going to see Brutus out, kind of battling out in the in danger, one might say. And all of a sudden, Mark Antony shows up. And some interesting dialogue happens in this short scene, so pay particular attention.
Scene 4. Another part of the battlefield. Shortly later. Alarm. Enter Brutus, Messala, young Cato, Lucilius, and Flavius.
"Yet, countrymen, oh yet hold up your heads!"
They exit.
"What bastard doth not? Who will go with me? I will proclaim my name about the field. I am the son of Marcus Cato, ho! A foe to tyrants and my country's friend. I am the son of Marcus Cato, ho!"
Enter soldiers and fight.
"And I am Brutus, Marcus Brutus, I. Brutus, my country's friend, know me for Brutus, my lord."
Young Cato is slain.
"O young and noble Cato, art thou down? Why now thou diest as bravely as Titinius, and mayest be honored, being Cato's son?"
"Yield, or thou diest."
"Only I yield to die. There is so much that thou wilt kill me straight. Kill Brutus, and be honored in his death."
"We must not. A noble prisoner."
Enter Antony.
"Room ho! Tell Antony Brutus is ta'en."
"I'll tell the news. Here comes the general. Brutus is ta'en. Brutus is ta'en, my lord."
"Where is he?"
"Safe, Antony. Brutus is safe enough. I dare assure thee that no enemy shall ever take alive the noble Brutus. The gods defend him from so great a shame. When you do find him, or alive or dead, he will be found like Brutus, like himself."
"This is not Brutus, friend, but I assure you a prize no less in worth. Keep this man safe, give him all kindness. I had rather have such men my friends than enemies. Go on and see where Brutus be alive or dead, and bring us word unto Octavius' tent, how everything is chanced."
They exit.
We have Brutus starting off, the beginning. "Yet, countrymen, oh, yet hold up your head." So fight, live up proud. We're with you, we're with you. And Cato's saying, you know what bastard doesn't? Of course, we all do. Let's fight, yeah. And then that's where we say, I'm going to go out and say who I am. Yeah, and I'm going to go out and say who I am, and I'm Brutus. And that's Lucilius. And so Lucilius is the one who kind of pulls the sheep over the eyes of the opposition for a brief moment anyways. So Lucilius is the individual that runs around and says that, proudly boasting that he is Brutus. In fact, he is not, and we see that when Antony's actually, because Antony knows what Brutus is like. So Antony walks, he goes, "So where's Brutus? Where's Brutus?" And look at Lucilius on line 20. Safe, Antony. Brutus is safe enough. I dare assure thee that no enemy shall ever take alive the noble Brutus. The gods defend him from so great a shame. When you do find him, or alive or dead, he will be found like Brutus, like himself. So he will be behaving like himself. He will be noble. You will find him, whether he's dead or alive, being noble, being the man that he is, the man that you hope to be. Oh, this is not Brutus, friend, but I assure you a prize no less in worth. Keep this man safe, give him all kindness. I had rather have such men my friends than enemies. So give word to Octavius and let him know what's happening and transpire. Okay, so that's kind of the big reveal of this particular scene. Scene 5, the culmination, the ending of the particular play. Late in the day, that second battle has been raging and it's going on. We will see if Brutus is still victorious over Antony. If Antony, we just saw a little bit of his strength in that he took a couple people, so maybe the tides have changed. Look at Brutus's demeanor. Look at his mindset. Compare it to what we saw with Cassius just a few pages back. And what does Brutus do? Is he victorious? Is he in defeat? If he is in defeat, what choice is he going to make? And then ultimately at the very end, what are the kind words being said about the slain individual? It's over. Act 5, Scene 5. The culmination of the plot. We have Brutus in defeat. He does play the Roman fool, to quote the Macbeth play. He doesn't, okay, stab me now, like the coward Cassius. He says, you hold this, hold it firm, while I run upon it. So he is, he's still killing himself in a way, but do you see how it's kind of, the thoughts are a bit different in the actual execution of the act, and so that really plays out, and we see the culmination of, like I said, the plot, but then we see what Octavius and Antony specifically, what he thinks of Brutus. And just looking at the very last two paragraphs, the phrasings there, Antony says that this was the noblest Roman of them all. All the conspirators, save he, did that they did in envy of great Caesar. He, Brutus, only in a general, honest thought and common good to all, made one of them. So he only joined because of his honesty and that this is the best for Rome. And we saw from the beginning Cassius's bad feelings towards Caesar, and that probably he just didn't like Caesar, didn't want him and have to bow to him and all that. But for Brutus, he loved him. But he loved Rome more. And remember, I talked about that throughout the play. That was his motivation, all of his decisions. And his enemy, the person that Brutus would have killed if the opportunity arose, and if the tides had changed, he would have killed Antony, but yet Antony still thinks very highly of him. He says that there was a man. This was a man. And if you follow the footnotes, it says that the Elizabethans, so people at that time period, believed that 4 elements, earth, water, air, and fire, in the body determined a person's temperament. And Antony says that Brutus is the elements, that the elements were balanced perfectly. So he was the perfect person, and he was the man. It's not like nowadays, man, he's the man. It's a bit different. There was a little bit more behind it. And that's one of those things with footnotes that are really helpful because we don't think of that, and we wouldn't get the meaning if we didn't know that. So follow footnotes. Octavius, look what he even says, the young ruler. He goes, according to his virtue, let us use him, with all respect and rites of burial. Within my tent his bones tonight shall lie, most like a soldier, ordered honorably. So call the field to rest and let's away, to part the glories of this happy day. So call the rest, blow the trumpet, say the battle's done, it's over. The 2 opposition conspirators are dead. We're victorious. Let's just talk about it and see what the future has in store for us being victorious on this day. Brutus had problems finding somebody to hold the sword. As things were going bad, he was getting depressed. He'd whisper and wonder, "Don't ask that of me. No, I will not do that." And so it was fine. I think it was on the third try, they finally got somebody to hold it. And it was a Strato. And that individual, he did it. And when they were asking him what happened, he says, Messala, Brutus's man, says, "My master's man Strato. Where is thy master?" "Free from the bondage you are in, Messala. The conquerors can but make a fire of him. For Brutus only overcame himself, and no man else hath honor by his death." So no one took honor. He ended his way nobly, like we all said he would, even though Brutus inside felt a little bit cowardly for doing it. But he is the most noble Roman, and he is the protagonist of the story. He is the person that we see and experience and feel emotionally connected to throughout this, even though he was part of the murdering faction that took care of Caesar. This is really the tragedy of Brutus. Okay? And if he had just made one different choice, not sparing Antony's life, look at how things could have changed if they had killed Antony. Or even if he let him live, but then not let him speak. Who knows how things would have been different. And that's really his big flaw of the overall piece was, not being as gruesome as everybody else. But in essence, that's not his character. He is the noble individual. So I hope you enjoyed the play. I mean, it's one that I think it's short. There are only 3 scenes in 3 of the 5 acts, which overall that's pretty short. Scene-wise, some of the scenes were a little lengthier than others. But I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope you saw the range of emotions from these characters, the motivations of Cassius as being kind of a conniving villain, and then took the cowardly way out. "Go ahead, stab me." And then we see how Brutus and he differ, even though they are side by side and friends. And you can see the decisions, and over time, after the death of 2 years, how they were hot and cold for each other, but then ultimately, friendly and cordial at the end. And then even after 2 years of planning and this big war, Antony and Octavius still think very highly of Brutus. So that's one thing that Cassius was not being conniving and lying about. You, Brutus, are noble. Everybody thinks highly of you. And Brutus, even in death, even after being deemed a traitor, 2 years on the run, his wife commits suicide, he is still considered a noble individual. And so that's really the tragedy of it, the sadness that individual had to succumb to, himself, but to the situation. So.